good friend of the show. David, welcome back.
Well, Kerry, thanks for having me back.
Hey, so watching the markets, it looks like the precious metals markets are due for a little bit of a pullback now. How much of a pullback is the question? And we've got all these people warning us about the Ides of March. I don't know why this year the Ides of March are different than any other year. That's my question. What's your thought here?
A lot's going on. I'm going to back up slightly and talk about, our service and, shameless plug or not, a fact is fact.
Plug is no reason to be ashamed of any plug. You got to keep the lights on.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I was getting a lot of inquiries from our membership about, look, the metals are going higher, but the stocks are selling off and showing weakness. And what does it mean? So I did a, video update, which is part of the premium service. And I explained that the metals stocks usually lead in a bull market. And this was an indicator that was most likely meaning that the precious metals will be selling off soon. And always wanted to be right and do the best for everyone. I also gave myself an out, meaning that if I was incorrect, here's where you would draw the line. And if it did the market maintain a certain level, blasted through this level on good volume, then it proves I'm wrong and take this action. So my basic theme was that the metals are coming down. Well, that was done a day or two ahead of the sell-off in silver of about 75 cents. So obviously it was timely and enough time to take action on the part of my membership if they're, aggressive. And most of them are. We have a built-in alert system that we wrote the software for. And this widget pops up on your desktop and kind of supersedes everything. Yeah. And it goes away with one click. But it's like, oh, something's important going on in the metals markets. And it's kind of looking at you. And then you have you click it, you log in, and you're there. So I said a lot to say this. I was also looking at the fundamentals, which is David Stockman was the one that brought it to my attention that on the 15th of March, we hit the debt ceiling again. And there's a lot of scenarios. I mean, and to paraphrase what Mr. Stockman said, who I have a great deal of respect for. And I mean, he's just done so much to enlighten the cause of truth and explain, just how this budget system works and how impossible it is to pay back the debt that we're coming up against us. And he saw it as, and again, it's my paraphrasing. I don't want to misquote anyone, that this could be the beginning of something major on the downside in the stock market. So I factored that into my update as well. And that gives kind of the counter argument that the most negatively correlated asset to stocks is gold. Not gold stocks, but gold itself, which could mean that you would see, a stock market decline, the mining shares fall with the stock market because they're stocks, and the money managers and the leverage funds and the ETFs and everyone else involved in this paper paradigm would have to sell even, good performing things like a major gold company to meet margin calls to readjust to the current conditions. However, in that same scenario, it could take place that gold itself was sought after as the safe haven that it is. So it was made it a little more difficult for me, Kerry, to make that call. So far, I called it correctly, but we're coming up, in a week and a half to this place of, are we going to get a big sell-off in the stock market? Are we going to grind to a halt? Is there going to be a lot of infighting between the executive branch and the legislative branch? Or is it going to be a big yawn and nothing happens? And my take is it's going to be somewhere in between. I think there'll be some, there'll be plenty of mainstream media surrounding, what Trump did or didn't do, or the legislature did or didn't do. And, there's this infighting. And we see it, you saw it during the previous administration. I mean, there's always this consternation surrounding the debt ceiling. And, it makes me laugh because this balanced budget scenario has been going on for years. I mean, that's what the Gramm-Rudman bill was all about. Was like, here's the line in the sand. We can't go above this. And every year they say, well, there's a line in the sand. Let's just move it. So it just becomes ridiculous from my perspective. Yeah. Nonetheless, this one may have more consequences than other years. We'll have to wait and see. I think the safe place, what I told everybody on my update was, when in doubt, stay out. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite commodity sayings, and I'm doubtful of which way it'll go. So I'm holding all my longs. I'm not buying anymore. I'm not doing any trades. I'm just going to wait and see. And once we get past the 15th, 16th, 17th, and kind of have a few days to kind of digest whatever the financial press and the mainstream press comes up with, and of course the alternative media that actually usually has a lot more truth and a lot more real news. Once I get to digest that, then I might decide to, take some action or not. But right now, I am undecided as far as, what the reaction will be.
Well, Trump talked a good game on the debt. He really didn't talk much about it other than we have too much debt. Well, who didn't know that, right?
Right.
My feeling, for what it's worth, is, debt ceilings will come and go, but the deficit is here to stay. Unless they're going to start selling off all these states that the federal government owns and all the assets that the federal government owns that it totally doesn't need. The government owns 45% of California, 85% of Nevada, and go down the list. There's no justification for the federal government owning all these states. They've just kind of held on to it, and they do a lousy job maintaining the property that they own, like everything else the federal government does. Otherwise, there's really no way out of this and, totally revamp the way the government does business. I just don't see it. So this will just be another non-event, it is my guess, and it'll just be much ado about nothing. I mean, who is there in the Congress, David, in the government that's really going to make a last stand on the debt ceiling here and stop it from going higher?
Well, exactly. I mean, I had this discussion with somebody I know and trust a day or two ago, and their analysis was that, this Trump will love it because if the legislative branch doesn't come up with a solution, then he'll just executive order everything and say, okay, I'm not paying for this. I'm not paying for that. I'm not paying for this. I'm going to pay for that. I'm going to pay for this. Just start basically writing checks by executive order. So who knows? I certainly don't. And again, that's why I'm going to take a wait and see attitude here. And I certainly don't mind admitting that, that's my stance, because a lot of times, waiting and learning, is the best posture to take. You don't always have to be in the market. Again, I'm not leaving the market. I'm just going to stay put with what I have, but I don't want to get aggressive with any new trades up or down, regarding, what will surround the 15th. I think, like many people, that Trump is a bit of a wild card. He's very difficult to figure out as far as what the next move could be, which is in a way difficult for anyone in the markets, because the markets like stability. They like kind of knowing ahead of time what's, the most likely scenario. And with this administration, you really don't have that, which in a way is good, I think, personally, because it keeps everybody kind of awake and aware and looking ahead and thinking, what would it mean if, he just basically said, I don't care if we don't have a budget defined. I'm just going to, I'm going to press on. He's definitely a take charge guy. He's definitely, from my perspective, running the U.S. government as a corporation. And of course, there's an argument that the U.S. is a corporation. And the fact is, yes, it is. There's actually 7 legal definitions of U.S. period, all caps. But regardless of that digression, I know that the overall move in the precious metals is going to be good this year. Whether or not it's going to be explosive remains to be determined. I've already written my, 2 cents worth, and I do emphasize the 2 cents worth on what I think will happen this year for silver, because the honest truth is I don't know. The market knows far more than me, but I have learned for so long of exactly how to take place of what the market tells me to do that I have, no qualms about, me being able to do the absolute best for people that subscribe to the Morgan Report, because, we have our ear to the ground. The market speaks, we listen, and take action.
Yeah. Don't try to second guess the market. I guess that's the real lesson that we've learned all too many times in our personal histories, right, David?
Exactly. I mean, I think Richard Russell is one of the best, certainly loved by almost everybody. And he had that attitude. And, I learned a lot from Richard and others. And it's what I've adopted years ago. And it's served us well. Is it perfect? No. But overall, it's a very good way to not only trade, it's also a good way to invest. It's also a good way to keep your emotions out. I mean, there seems to be more emotion surrounding the gold and silver markets, and silver in particular, than almost any other investment class you care to name. I mean, I wrote an article about this not too long ago about, silver and the emotional ties. It becomes almost a religion to people. And, being very honest, which me, Kerry, I mean, back in my youth, in my, 20s and maybe up to 30 something, silver was almost a religion to me. I mean, it's like, doesn't everyone else get it? There's this deficit, and there's all these things that I knew, but most of the market doesn't care. I mean, when you look at how small the silver market is compared to the financial industry, it is so pathetically small that obviously, 99.8% of the people aren't going to give a darn at what you think about the silver market. But those that are in our tribe, those that are in the, in the fold, so to speak, they get it. And they are, they hold on like a pit bull about it. And in a way, they're right. But that just because you're right doesn't mean it's going to make you happy or it's going to win you a lot of friends.
For sure. And I think when we all get involved, David, in precious metals, it does become a bit of a religious experience at first. There's so much history involved. There's so much knowledge that comes to you about what the government's been doing, how they pulled the wool over your eyes for so long. All these things start taking hold, if you will, and the way you've been duped, all of these things, the way the country's been duped, the way most people are still being duped out there. And that's why you kind of lose it a little bit, right?
Well said. I know we want to cut this off at like the Wizard of Oz. I mean, the whole metaphor is about the silver industry, really. I mean, there's messages and messages within messages, but the main premise is the yellow brick road is the golden brick road from the west to the east, where the Eastern banking establishment goes on a gold-only standard and basically screws the people out in the west that are the independent thinkers doing things on their own on a silver standard. Right. I mean, the whole cross of gold speech. I mean, it's a very interesting thing. And I just, that one thing among many came to my mind as you were reiterating kind of what I said in your own thoughts, and thank you for that, because you do get involved when you see it's kind of like excuse the corny metaphor, but silver being the best reflector of light in existence. I mean, when the light shines on and wakes you up, you can't unwake up. And then when you start to do a little bit of soul searching, you find out how badly we've been screwed in the monetary system all along.
and it goes back to Williams Jennings Bryant and populism and all of these things. And there's so much history in it. And all these panics, what we used to call panics, now we call them recessions and all these things. So it's rich in history, and you can't help but get excited because you feel like you've discovered something. You've made a major discovery, and all of a sudden, and then you get a little too overboard. So without belaboring the point, it's understandable that it almost becomes a cult-like religious experience, if you will, when you first get involved in it. And then you kind of mature and you kind of go on from there, hopefully. And then it's just like anything else, I guess. So your gut feel is we're probably going to go down a little bit more from here, because the stocks obviously have been under a lot of selling pressure over the past, I guess, week and a half. Has it been? If it's
it's been a while for the stocks. I'd say at least a couple of weeks. And I agree. I think the most likely scenario is further weakness in the metals and the underlying equities. We'll find a bottom, and then based on how the market reacts, I've got my parameters that all the members know, and I'll be updating them on an as-required basis as always, and be able to add to our positions at a lower level, and hopefully, make use of what the market gives us. I mean, I don't like to. First of all, I never overtrade. I learned that the hard way. Secondly, position trading suits my personality quite well, and the membership also. And last year, we made kind of a perfect move from January up into the summertime, and I called the top almost perfectly. I'm very good at the tops, or at least so far. Bottoms, not so much, and I admit it. But nonetheless, the way I trade, it doesn't make much difference on the bottom, because I make the market prove to us that it's going higher before I get in. Right. So even though I missed the bottom, I've got a parameter, and I set it up where the market's got to give us the signal, not me. So it doesn't matter if I call the bottom right or not. Although people that only listen to me on shows like yours think, oh my God, David said the bottom was blah, 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 blah. And it turns out it wasn't. Doesn't matter, because if I say get in at 16 and the market goes down to 12, you following the rules wouldn't get into 16. Now I realize that's a far cry from 12. The point I'm trying to make is that the way I trade protects you from getting in when you shouldn't. And I've had it in that kind of a modality for a long time. Kind of a fair example, but it's much closer to the bottom, than that example. Anyway, I know we're running out of time. I just want to say, for everybody that's not on our free list, please get on it. Just go to themorganreport.com. give us a first name and your primary email address. You'll have to verify that, and you'll get on our weekend updates. And we also usually send out a couple things during the week. Additional to that, I will be changing the video on the front page. I'm going to try to do it a little more often. Right now, there's a free webinar about, is there a silver shortage? A very important question for people to know whether or not there is one. And then if you're interested in the 11-page report that I started the new website, the Morgan Report, with, you can just go to my domain. It's called Riches and Resources, all one word, Riches and Resources, and you can sign up for the free e-letter. It's the same list, so you don't have to sign in twice. Just go into the richesandresources.com website, and same thing, a first name and an email address, and you'll get the ability to download the Riches and Resources report.
Excellent. Hey, and by the way, if you got any questions, comment about this interview or others, feel free, send me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com, kl@kerrylutz.com. Twitter feed is @KerryLutz. The Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. And just go over to Financial Survival Network, go over to the Morgan Report. A lot of information there. A lot of it's free. You'll get a lot of education. And then you figure out what to do, because that's what you need to be thinking of, is what are you going to do? David, it's always great to talk to you. Probably see you in a few weeks up in Vancouver, I hope. And hey, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Kerry. Thanks for having me.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.